Good morning and welcome to our live coverage of Starlink 10-9 mission launching from Space Coast, that is Launch Complex 39A, Kennedy Space Center, Florida. Hope you all are doing fine and excited about the upcoming launch. After being grounded for 15 days by the FAA due to the first failure in more than 7 years of a rocket relied upon the global space industry, we are here again to witness the launch of SpaceX workhorse, the Falcon 9. We are awaiting for the Falcon 9 liftoff at 12:21 a.m. Eastern Time from Launch Complex 39A, Eastern Florida, for a northeasterly launch for SpaceX Starlink mission. The Starlink mission 10-9 will launch 23 Starlink satellites to low Earth orbit. And today's Starlink mission marks SpaceX's amazing 365th overall launch. Hello, my name is Dipta Maitra, performing the commentary for today's mission launch. We are thrilled bringing you the live coverage of SpaceX's 73rd overall launch and the 70th launch of Falcon 9 of this year. This will be the 50th dedicated Starlink mission of the year for SpaceX, and prior to today's launch, SpaceX has launched 1088 Starlink satellites so far, over 49 flights this year, and overall 6,738 Starlink satellites to date. Now, before getting into the mission details, just a quick update. Yesterday on a news conference, NASA and SpaceX stated SpaceX Crew 9 is now targeting for the launch date of August 18th with a window extending to the early September. NASA's Ken Bowersox noting that NASA and SpaceX will launch when we are ready. There are some outstanding certification work that need to be completed before SpaceX can launch a crewed mission following the Falcon 9 Starlink 9-3 mission anomaly back on July 11th. Regarding Polaris Dawn mission, Sarah Walker, Director of Dragon Mission Management for SpaceX, says they are still holding a late summer slot for launch, with no specific date being specified by her. Also from the news conference, we got to know that Crew 10 will fly in February 2025 and Starliner 1 in August 2025, double booked with Crew 11. Teams from NASA and Boeing Space says no date set for Boeing Starliner crew to return home from the International Space Station. A landing date for Starliner crew flight test will be scheduled following the flight test readiness review planned for later next week, while landing opportunities are available throughout August. Meanwhile, Starliner thruster ground testing is complete and a hot fire test of the docked Starliner is scheduled this weekend using its 27 of the 28 RCS maneuvering thrusters. And lastly, the much anticipated the US ISS Spacewalk 90 and 91 have no further schedule provided by NASA yet. We are keeping a keen eye on any updates and will let you know as soon as possible. Now just a note, it's me only managing the launch coverages on my own. So if we face any technical issues, please bear with me and hang tight. I will do my best to guide you through the Falcon 9 launch happening in some minutes away. Now let's get back to today's Starlink 10-9 mission. So far, SpaceX reports that the weather is looking good for today's Falcon 9 launch opportunity and the range is ready to support, having 15% probability of violation and 85% favorable outlook, with the minor primary concern being cumulus cloud rule only associated with a stray coastal shower. For now, the forecast suggests a small chance of isolated showers in the vicinity, and we hope that they are able to launch on time and not have to push too far. But if for some reason we don't have a launch today, we do have a backup opportunity on Sunday, July 20th, with launch window opening at the same time, that is of today, at 12:21 a.m. Eastern Time. SpaceX is currently targeting a liftoff time of Falcon 9 from Kennedy Space Center at 12:21 a.m. Eastern Time, 4:21 a.m. UTC on Saturday, that is July 27th, which corresponds to 9:21 p.m. Pacific Time on Friday, that is on July 26th. Before moving on, firstly, we want to express our heartfelt gratitude to everyone for joining us for today's launch. We are truly delighted and appreciate that you are here with us. A massive thanks to all of you and to our incredible YouTube community for tuning in as we offer detailed coverage of space launches, complete with extensive stats and thorough insights. Your support means the world to us. Now let's take a look at today's payload details for Starlink Group 10-3 mission. This launch marks the 47th dedicated Starlink launch for this year. The 50th dedicated Starlink launch for this year. A quick fun fact: at the very inception, the two identical Starlink test satellites called Microsat 2A and Microsat 2B were launched on 22nd February 2018, and upon orbital deployment they were renamed to Tintin A and Tintin B. So Tintin A and Tintin B are the first Starlink satellites to be launched. Starlink satellites are built at SpaceX Satellite Development Facility in Redmond, Washington. Today's launch consists of 23 version 2 mini satellites. The version 2 variant of Starlink is large enough to not fit inside a Falcon 9 fairing and is meant to be launched by Starship. To mitigate this issue, SpaceX modified the original version 2 blueprint into a smaller, more compact one named version 2 Mini. SpaceX also indicated they would build satellites of second generation constellation in two different but technically identical form factors. one with the physical structures tailored to the launch on Falcon 9, that is version 2 mini, and another tailored for the launch on Starships, that is version 2. Each Starlink satellite is equipped with powerful 5 advanced Ku-band phased array antennas and 3 dual-band parabolic antennas utilizing Ka and E-band to provide increased capacity. Together, these antennas utilizes Ku, Ka and E-band frequencies, allowing Starlink to provide high bandwidth connectivity, that is 4 times more capacity per satellite than earlier versions. Each Starlink features a dual solar array with a size of 52.5 square meters, which unfurls to a wingspan of 100 feet. Also, it has a high capacity battery to provide power to the payloads. The 2 solar arrays are also aero-neutral, which enable faster on-orbit maneuvers. Each Starlink satellite contains 3 space laser transponders, that is optical intersatellite links or ISLS, for intercommunications, operating at up to 200 Gbps, which together across the constellation form a global internet mesh that can connect customers anywhere in the world. It also enables the spacecraft to transmit data without local ground station, providing truly global coverage. Each Starlink version 2 mini satellite weighs nearly 800 kilograms, that is 1763 pounds. Starlink satellites are equipped with efficient ion Hall effect thrusters powered by argon, which enables Starlink satellites to raise the orbit, maneuver in space, and deorbit at the end of their useful life. Starlink is the first Krypton-propelled ever flown spacecraft. Later switched to argon Hall effect thrusters for cost effectiveness. Also, upon switching to argon, Starlink is again the first argon-propelled spacecraft ever flown in space. Now, with this switch in propulsion, it raises the question of how much actually the switch affects the cost. Relative to Krypton, the argon required to fuel Starlink version 2 satellites will be practically free. To put it into perspective, fueling its next constellation of almost 30,000 version 2 satellites could cost SpaceX less than fueling 4,000 version 1 satellites, which were based on Krypton. Also, SpaceX claims that its second generation thrusters using argon has 12.4 times the thrust and 1.5 times the specific impulse of the previously Krypton fueled thrusters. Today's payload will be placed in an orbit with an altitude of 279 kilometers and with an inclination of 53.16 degrees. This orbital placement configuration does not apply to every Starlink satellite. Starlink satellites are placed in different configurations based on their group. Starlink uses custom-built navigation sensors named Star Tracker that surveys the star to determine each satellite's location, altitude, and orientation for best possible broadband throughput. Each Starlink satellite contains 4 reaction wheels, providing agile attitude control for the vehicle. The hot spare configuration ensures high reliability operation, and its aluminum flywheel is fully demisable at the end of life. Also worth mentioning, the Starlink satellites are equipped with an autonomous collision avoidance system on board for avoiding collisions with other spacecraft and space junk autonomously, which utilizes the US Department of Defense debris tracking database. With the recent inclusion of Sierra Leone and Madagascar, let's take a look at the countries where Starlink's low latency high speed internet is now available. And as of the current status, Starlink is delivering its high speed, latency internet services to more than 100 countries and territories. Before moving on, would like to welcome Popripika. We should welcome back you first, then the Falcon 9. Finally, after so many days, we got to be together. Thanks for tuning in, and hopefully, you are well and doing fine. Really, it did felt like that it's never ending, and it's the time was for a while feeling like it stood still. Moreover, there were no more launches and delays. So finally the day arrived, and hopefully now SpaceX will be launching on time so that I can sleep a little. Although while talking to you only, I just checked. It seems like there is a delay in the liftoff time. I'm just checking the time and telling you. So right now SpaceX is now targeting 12:59 a.m. Eastern Time, 4:59 a.m. UTC, both on Saturday, that is on July 27th, which corresponds to 9:59 p.m. Pacific Time on Friday, that is on July 26th. It's like slightly of 30 minutes of delay, but anyways, no matter what they will take time. Hopefully such incident won't occur anymore. If they want to postpone, that is also fine, but don't want Falcon 9 to be grounded or ongoing these investigations and these things. Really, it feels empty without them. So anyways, as we are having a more 30 minutes, we will be discussing about the Falcon 9 Starlink 9-3 mission failure. About that we will discuss at the very end. So for now, let's discuss about the mission for today. Now let's discuss about the Starlink's latency. You know that the internet that comes from satellites, most of the time it is from a single satellite that's orbiting about 35,786 kilometers from Earth. Because it's so far away, the time it takes for the data to go back and forth, what we call latency, is pretty high. This makes it tough to do things like streaming movies, playing online games, making video calls, or real-time data exchange. Now, if we talk about Starlink, it's like a big team of thousands of satellites that are much closer to us, just about 550 kilometers from Earth. They are all over the place around the globe, covering the entire globe, and as of now, the direct to cell satellite technology, they are creating a zero dead zone areas. And because they are closer, the latency is way lower. To put it into perspective, think of 25 milliseconds of latency compared to 600 and plus milliseconds of latency. You can see on your screen what is the number of round trips in case of Starlink compared to geostationary satellite. The latency difference between the Starlink and is the geostationary satellites is having a huge difference. So in simple terms, Starlink's low orbit makes it a game changer for satellite internet. This could mean smoother video calls, lag-free online gaming, and other activities that requires a lot of data and where the real-time data exchange is a priority. Moving on, let's learn a little bit about Starlink's collision avoidance system. It's quite fascinating to know how, despite having so many satellites around the Earth, they manage to stay safe and avoid collisions. Recently, SpaceX reports that Starlink satellites performed 275 collision avoidance maneuvers each day. And in the past 6 months, Starlink satellites performed more than 50,000 collision avoidance maneuvers. So how did they do it? Let's learn. SpaceX designs the Starlink satellites orbit raising and orbit lowering reference trajectories with a time optimal path planning algorithm. The algorithm includes additional constraints to ensure that the Starlink satellite always remains at a large and safe distance from space stations, other spacecrafts, space junks, and from other Starlink satellites as well under nominal circumstances. As an additional safety measure, Starlink's screening system constantly monitors the satellite's planned reference trajectories against the space stations, other spacecrafts, and other Starlink satellites. The system alerts the Starlink operators immediately when a potential conjunction is detected, and the reference trajectories are replanned to change the geometry of the encounter and to avoid the conjunction whenever possible. Each Starlink launch typically includes enough satellites to fill several orbital planes. For this reason, a train of satellites is usually divided into smaller trains that depart from parking orbit on different dates to target specific orbital planes, which is also a part of pre-planned conjunction avoidance. The techniques for avoiding conjunction at the planning stages are an additional precaution in addition to Starlink's onboard collision avoidance system. In this context, conjunction avoidance during planning refers to designing trajectories that maintain satellites far from space stations under nominal circumstances. Deconflicting trajectories at the planning stage requires predicting potential conjunctions several weeks into the future, which naturally limits the accuracy of the results. As a part of SpaceX multi-tiered approach to space safety, Starlink's automatic collision avoidance system allows satellites to plan maneuvers to minimize the collision probability during close approaches that could not be avoided when planning. Now, if you are feeling we are adding value to your viewing experience, consider giving this video a like, which really helps YouTube's algorithm to bring in more space fans and people to find out this stream. Also consider subscribing to us as we strive hard to bring streams filled with stats and details. And for that, we would be super grateful for your support. Yes, Pop Tripika, for that only I said that let them take time, but not to go in such a awkward situation where we will be, at least I don't know about SpaceX, but we are deprived of their launches, being witnessing them. So let them take time and to have the launch. And moreover, as because this one is a return to flight launch, so they want to make things double checked, because this launch will prove a major milestone for the FAA to finally give the permanent approval for the Falcon 9 to launch. Still now the investigation is open, although NASA and FAA both stated that SpaceX is doing great with the investigation, so let's hope for the best. And yes, really, we should be now, from now on, we should be looking into the second stage more carefully for the ice buildups. That day, when the last Starlink 9-3 mission was ongoing, I didn't thought that this can cause such a huge issue, but it did resulted in such a long gap of 15 days. Yes, Starlinks are basically space Teslas, as you said, but it has to be done like this. And previously, when I was not working with on these stuffs and was not so much keen about it, I was not knowing also. But nowadays, even on every other satellites, you can find a star tracker. So, as because the density of the satellites around the globe is increasing, so it is a mandatory equipment nowadays to have on a satellite, to at least not to be colliding and to be in a safe distance from other spacecraft and space junks. So yes, they are space Teslas having scanning capabilities. Yes, 16 days indeed is a long time, as because you know that ahead of we are having so many important missions to have. The Polaris Dawn is a it's my speculation only, I don't know, and SpaceX didn't also confirmed anything about that, but that will be affected for this. Already previously we were think it was scheduled for 30th of this month. Now it has to be delayed. Moreover, Crew 9 Cygnus is there, like hell lot of launches are there to be launched by Falcon 9. So it's a major issue. Just keeping aside their Starlink missions, other than Starlink missions, every other mission which is there is all are like having a major importance. So hopefully the investigation comes to an end sooner and we will be in a stable situation with Falcon 9 as it was before. Regarding the Polaris Dawn mission, yesterday, as I said earlier, I think you were not there that time, Pop Tripika. Yesterday on the Crew 9 news conference hosted by NASA, there was SpaceX Director of Dragon Mission Management, Sarah Walker, and she stated that they are still holding a late summer slot for the launch of Polaris Dawn mission, but she didn't specify any date. And also from the news conference, we got to know that NASA and SpaceX both are still targeting the launch of Crew 9 on August 18th, but with a flexible launch window extending to the early September. So, if the investigation goes a little longer, it can go towards the early September, as they kept the launch like window for to the early September. But hopefully, but like to my opinion, I want to watch the Polaris Dawn mission earlier than Crew 9, because nowadays, as the number suggests, that Crew 9 it is the ninth mission, so we are getting used to it. So the Polaris Dawn mission will be quite like out of the box, surprisingly, like, so it will be a little different from other launches and human space flights, to be specific. So I'm excited for the Polaris Dawn more. Now let's see how the investigation goes. Everything depends on SpaceX and FAA. So now let's get back to the mission discussion again. Having a look at the flight record for the booster supporting today's Starlink 10-9 mission. A mature booster with tail number 1069 will be supporting today's mission. It's now 49 days since last used. Today's supporting booster with tail number 1069 has 16 previous flights in its record, including missions like CRS-24, that is Commercial Resupply Service Mission to the International Space Station, Eutelsat Hotbird 13F mission. Hotbird is a group of satellites operated by Eutelsat, a French satellite operator, providing coverage over the entire European continent, the Middle East, Africa, Asia, and the Americas. It is the world's third largest satellite operator in terms of revenues. Next up, OneWeb 1 mission for Eutelsat OneWeb, a subsidiary of Eutelsat Group providing broadband satellite internet services in low Earth orbit. Next supported missions by the booster was SES-18 and SES-19 for SES, a major telecommunication operator based in Luxembourg, and also 12 Starlink missions. Now the booster is awaiting its 17th flight. Just let me check the time once more. Just 1 hour and 11 minutes away approximately from now. The last mission supported by today's booster was Starlink 10-1 from Cape Canaveral on June 8th this year. That mission was the first Starlink mission from the Cape to launch on a northeast trajectory in 1.5 years for the maiden flight to the 10th shell of second generation Starlink mega constellation. Previously, with Starlink Group 10-3 mission on June 27th from Cape Canaveral, SpaceX once again achieved a record. For the first time, a Falcon booster 1062 launched for record-breaking 22nd time. The same booster previously set a record with its 21st flight for SpaceX. Now let's have a look at the bar graphs presenting numbers of Falcon 9 launches each year. Before today's launch, SpaceX completed 69 launches of Falcon 9 so far this year as part of its milestone, with the recent ill-fated Starlink Group 9-3 mission launch back on July 11th. SpaceX achieved a significant milestone with this year's 50th launch during the previous Starlink 8-7 mission. This is just two more than half of last year's Falcon 9 launches, which totaled 48. Following the recent Starlink 9-3 mission launch, they have now conducted 21 more launches than half of last year's total. This year's launch count already surpasses the total number of Falcon 9 launches from all the years leading up to 2022, and they are now targeting the number of launches made in 2023. With the previous Starlink 9-1 mission launch from Space Launch Complex 4 East at Vandenberg Space Force Base, they equaled the number of launches from the year 2022. With today's launch of Starlink Group 10-9 mission, the bar graph now shows 70 Falcon 9 launches so far this year, which is 9 more than total number of launches in 2022. They have already accomplished more than half the number of launches they did last year, and it's only been nearly 7 months into this year. Due to the loss of Starlink 9-3 mission, followed by the Falcon 9 being grounded by the FAA, SpaceX lagged by 15 days, which affected their spectacular launch cadence. But still, at this pace, they are on track to achieve their ambitious goal of 140 to 148 launches by the end of this year. As of now, SpaceX will really push hard to achieve their big goals, considering the gap of complete 15 days of no launches. We recently witnessed the fourth integrated flight test of Starship on June 6th and are now awaiting the fifth one tentatively scheduled for early August. But we hope that the issue with Falcon 9 and the ongoing investigation, also the license modification for the Super Heavy booster catch by the launch tower from the Federal Aviation Administration, that is the FAA, won't affect the schedule. Now, as we talked about Starship, there was an update in between all these days of no launches. A full duration static fire of Flight 5 Super Heavy booster was conducted on July 15th ahead of Starship's next integrated flight test, which was previously expected in next few weeks, possibly early August. However, as of now, SpaceX is undergoing an investigation for Falcon 9, as we all know, which may affect the schedule of IFT 5. There is no official confirmation about this, it's just my speculation only. Although there should not be any issue with the IFT 5 to be delayed, as because both are two different flights rockets, so there should not be any issue that for Falcon 9 that IFT 5 should be delayed or something. But as we don't know the internal working procedure of FAA, so we are unsure. The 233 feet, that is 71 meters Booster 12 was rolled to the Launchpad at SpaceX test site on July 9th, ahead of the full duration static fire test at the Starbase facility in Texas. With Super Heavy secured to the launchpad, the rocket's 33 Raptor engines fired at full thrust for about 8 seconds. At full power, the engine generated nearly 17 million pounds of thrust. As I was saying that at full power, the 33 engines generated nearly 17 million pounds of thrust, which is twice the power output of NASA's iconic Saturn V moon rocket. The Flight 5 booster incorporated several enhancements as well, including improved engine shielding and updated flight control systems. The upper stage for the next Starship test flight, known as Ship 30, completed the static fire of its 6 Raptor engines earlier in May. IFT-5 will be the fifth launch of Starship's fully stacked vehicle and its most ambitious to date. Because this time SpaceX will try out a new landing procedure where Super Heavy booster is caught by huge mechanical arms known as the chopsticks on the launch tower. But as I was saying previously, if the catch is attempted, the FAA will require SpaceX to request a license modification. So even that can cause delay for the test flight. Now please allow us a couple of seconds to check whether the launch is on time or not and to stay updated. Please be tuned in here. We will be right back in few seconds. As of now, it seems like SpaceX is sticking with their newly adjusted liftoff time of 12:59 a.m. Eastern Time, 4:59 a.m. UTC on July 27th, which corresponds to 9:59 p.m. Pacific Time on July 26th. Yes, everyone is excited to witness the Polaris Dawn of Tripica because, as you said, that it is the first commercial spacewalk. And as of now, we saw that what is the difference between a government organization led launches versus a commercial company launching the same. So we witnessed at how SpaceX facilitate everything, no matter whether it is a cargo or a manned space flight, with their excellence in technology, moreover providing comfort, the looks, everything it makes more appealing and comforting. So we hope that this Polaris Dawn mission will be an exemplary, that what a government organization can learn from them. Although I won't be personally not complaining to NASA that they were doing bad when they were launching crew to ISS, because that time and that era, that was the perfect, you can say that. But who knows, that maybe that time if SpaceX emerged as a commercial company, maybe they would have been did these things earlier, that time only. But no matter what, that time we were happy with them. So but now our expectations grew more with SpaceX doing these things. So for that, everyone is like waiting so bad for this Polaris Dawn mission. Yes, regarding this, thanks you mentioned about this, but you were saying that now today, yesterday only, when I was preparing these slides and everything, and when I was writing every time Kennedy Space Center, you were coming back to my mind that you said in between you will be going to Kennedy Space Center. I was thinking about you that you mentioned it before. So I was thinking to ask you about that. Anyways, but even if you are going to Cape Canaveral, hopefully at that time, although as they mentioned that Crew 9 will be launching on August 18th, hopefully they will delay up to that launch window you are having there to witness, that is from August 22nd to 30th. I said it launch window for you, so hopefully they will delay it to those dates when you are available there, so that you can witness it, and hopefully, who knows, you can meet some of the officials or something from there. That will be an added benefit. And if you will be trying to visit Kennedy Space Center, I don't know, I just saw in X post that they're having a huge LED wall having animated graphics going on there. Hopefully you will be visiting that and witnessing, although we are not having here any scope. But as you are there in X, so if possible, if it is not personal, and if nothing, it is having an it is having any issue with your personal identity to be disclosed or not to be disclosed, you can share your visit, your pictures when you will be there. And really, because we want to see one of our close one visiting there, how you feel there. So it's up to you. If you can, we will be happy. And really, we are happy that you are finally visiting there. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity, at least for me. So be there and enjoy your stay there. Now let's go ahead as we progress through the countdown and review the milestones that lie ahead for us on this Kennedy Space Center flight. At T minus 38 minutes, countdown begins at this point when SpaceX launch director gives the go for the start of propellant load. If everything looks fine, prop load begins at the T minus 30 minutes mark with the loading of rocket grade kerosene or the RP1 on board the first and the second stages of Falcon 9 rocket. At the same time, LOX load, that is super chilled liquid oxygen, is loaded on board the first stage. And then at T minus 16 minutes, which will be the next event that we are looking for here, that's when the second stage liquid oxygen load begins. At T minus 7 minutes, that's when the chill down of 9 Merlin engines get underway. It involves flowing a small amount of liquid oxygen through the plumbing and the turbo pumps, which helps protect the engines from the risk of thermal shock and damages during the startup sequence. At about 6 minutes before liftoff, the first stage kerosene tank should be full. In a T minus 4 minutes and a half, the strong back retract sequence begins. The first process begins with the clamp arms underneath the payload fairings opening up, followed by the transporter erector or the strong back reclining about 1.5 degrees from the Falcon 9. It remains in that position until liftoff, is when it rapidly pulls back to clear the way for the Falcon 9 rocket's vertical ascent. Just for a quick knowledge, you might be knowing that the strong back reclining process at Kennedy Space Center at Cape Canaveral differs from that at Vandenberg. Here at Kennedy Space Center and Cape Canaveral, we recline the strong back about 1.5 degrees, whereas at Vandenberg, we recline it 13 degrees away from the Falcon 9. Excuse me for the interruption. Actually, a service guy for my printer arrived now, so I just made him to talk with my dad so that they can manage the thing as I'm here with you guys. So the strong back positioned alongside the vehicle, also referred as a transporter erector, fulfills multiple functions. It supplies propellants, provides air conditioning, pressurization gases, and electrical power. Additionally, it transports the Falcon 9 to the launch pad and positions it for the launch. Here is an image on your screen showing how a strong back, how a strong back or transporter erector transports the rockets. Although on your screen you are watching Falcon Heavy being transported, but the process is same for the Falcon 9. At the T minus 3 minute mark, the first stage liquid oxygen loading should be complete, followed by the second stage liquid oxygen loading wrapping up at T minus 2 minutes mark. At that point, The Falcon 9 rocket is fully fueled with 1 million pounds of propellant. At T-1 minute mark, the propellant tanks are brought up to flight pressure. In the final 60 seconds of countdown, the control of the flight system, that is the launch sequence, is handed over from the ground sequencer to the Falcon 9's onboard flight computers. If everything looks good at T-45 seconds mark, the SpaceX launch director will give the final go for Falcon 9 liftoff. Now at T-3 seconds, the engine ignition sequence start command being issued by the onboard engine controller. Finally, at T0, we will have the liftoff. If all 9 Merlin 1D engines ignite and are healthy, flight computers will give the command for the hold down clamps to release the Falcon 9. Currently targeting a liftoff of Falcon 9 from Kennedy Space Center at 12:59 am Eastern Time, 4:59 am UTC, which corresponds to 9:59 p.m. Pacific Time. The Eastern Time and the UTC are on July 27th, but the Pacific Time, that is 9:59 p.m., it's on July 26th. Right now we are less than 1 hour from the liftoff. No, actually, Pop Tripica Starship is not grounded. As far as we didn't got any update about that, so it seems like the Starship is at large. It can fly anytime. So it's just a joke, but uh, we didn't got any update that whether the Starship is grounded as well for the Falcon 9 mishap. But hopefully, as I said, that personally, I don't know how the FAA investigation works. So, whether it's for a particular vehicle only or for the whole agency, it will be applied. So, as I don't know on my own, so maybe for this, I was speculating that maybe for the Falcon 9 investigation, maybe the Starship will be also delayed. But there is no official confirmation or nothing, it's just my random guess, as you said. And we are glad that you like that footage of booster, super heavy booster, although that day when it happened I was out of my home, so I couldn't post it anything, and later on I didn't thought to, when I came it was like already 2 days after, so I thought not to give it anymore, as because already the incident got a little bit older. Because for us rocket enthusiast is like, if we can have it live then only it is good, else okay kind of. And yes, if I saw it on pictures only, that there in Kennedy Space Center you can see those space shuttles they are having there, on display. And about this Falcon 9 booster on display, I think I'm not sure about it, but as you are saying, I'm taking into consideration. But I think that I saw a picture of Falcon 9 booster on display outside the SpaceX headquarters, I guess. So I'm not sure also about that. But anyways, if you can have a look, it's best for you, and we are happy for you for that. Of course, do so. If you will be taking some pictures, do tag us. Would like to really see them, because no matter what, wherever I saw those pictures of Kennedy Space Center or anything SpaceX related, it's all taken by professional photographers from the agencies. So they are well crafted, and no matter what, I'm not complaining about those pictures, but there is a fun little bit of fun in having a random picture, not than a professional more than a professional pictures to be taken. So if you will be taking them, please do take some pictures, and we would be more than happy to witness them. But yes, as I said about the professional and casual photo taking, don't take a pictures like Mr. Bean, okay? I'm getting jealous now a little bit, Paprika. Now you are saying like this, when I will be getting a chance to visit there. Hopefully, let's see someday. But despite of getting jealous, I'm really heartily I'm happy for you that you can go there and just stand next to a booster is such a privilege to have. And we are really it's like we are less than 1 month, as you are saying, we are less than 1 hour, we are less than 1 month for you to go there. So we are excited now. So let's get back to today's mission discussion. Let's go ahead and have a look at the trajectory for today's mission. Falcon 9 leaving the pad from Launch Complex 39A from Kennedy Space Center with a batch of 23 Starlink satellites on board for a northeast trajectory heading into low Earth orbit, that is, to the 10th shell of second generation Starlink mega constellation, indicated by that green line on your screen. The red line indicates where Falcon 9 first stage will land after stage separation, just a little later, leaving Florida's Space Coast. This is going to be a drone ship landing using autonomous spaceport drone ship. For today's mission supported, for today's mission, the supporting drone ship is just read the instructions. one of the two here on the East Coast, which means that the first stage booster with tail number 1069 flying for its 17th time will be returning heading out to the drone ship for the landing. This will be the 87th successful landing on Just Read the Instructions drone ship to date. The planned booster recovery is 618 kilometers with estimated fairing recovery approximately 700 kilometers downrange, and the stage 2 debris re-entry will be south of Australia on the second orbit. We expect the addition of a fourth drone ship likely by the end of this year or early next year. Currently, there are 3 in SpaceX drone ship fleet. Of the 3 drone ships, Just Read the Instructions and a short follow-up Gravitas are stationed here in Florida, while of course I Still Love You is stationed in California. But today, we have a new member joining the SpaceX recovery vessel fleet on its inaugural mission, completing fairing recovery sea trials. SpaceX will utilize a recovery vessel to retrieve them from the Atlantic waters. The two halves of the payload fairing will be recovered slightly farther, approximately 82 kilometers downrange from where the first stage lands on the Just Read the Instructions drone ship. After they will smoothly splash down with the guidance of parachutes. SpaceX manufactures the fairing in-house with the total cost of two halves is nearly $6 million. No wonder that SpaceX aims to recover the fairing for repetitive use following its same approach with rocket boosters, upholding the motto of reusability and sustainability. On your screen, you can see how a fairing recovery looks like. Although the recovery vessel on your screen is Doug performing the recovery operations. But today's supporting recovery vessel is the all-new Go Cosmos. It's a mission debut for Go Cosmos. The other recovery vessels, Bob and Doug, are currently awaiting its next assignment, and either of them will be used in upcoming Starlink 10-4 mission from Cape. Although according to the updates, we know that Bob is already in one of the landing zone and Doug is currently now at the port, so hopefully and possibly the Bob will be the next recovery vessel for the upcoming Starlink 10-4 mission, but we never know. That maybe Doug will be departing later on for the mission, so it's unclear for now. SpaceX has named its two new recovery ships Bob and Doug. After Bob Bacon and Doug Hurley, the two NASA astronauts and the first crew SpaceX launched for NASA under commercial crew program on the Demo 2 mission to the International Space Station back in 2020. Also this year, May 30th marked the 4th anniversary of Falcon 9, launching NASA's Demo 2 mission to the space station, returning human spaceflight to the United States. Since then, Dragon has carried 49 people into orbit. Now guys, would like to have just 2 minutes of break from you. I recently had a bad news of my granddad being expired, so please just give me 2 minutes. Sorry for the interruption, guys. Now here is a short video of the fairing separation and MVAC ignition. You can see how the fairing half separate, exposing the payload on board the second stage to space, and the MVAC engine ignition. This one a video of a fairing half. You know, that protective shell from rocket's payload. It's making its way back home, piercing through the Earth's atmosphere. As you can see, the coolest part is this mesmerizing halo around it. We hope you enjoyed these two amazing short clips. If you feel like we are adding value to your viewing experience, please consider giving this video a like. It really helps YouTube algorithm bring in more space fans to discover this stream. Let's have a quick look through the launch timeline for the Falcon 9 rocket passing this event following liftoff. At t plus 1 minute and 10 seconds, Falcon 9 will pass through max Q, a point of greatest aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle. Then couple of different events coming up in rapid succession. First will be at t plus 2 minutes and 26 seconds, where first stage main engine cutoff will occur, that is MECO, followed by a major milestone within 4 seconds at t plus 2 minutes and 30 seconds, where first and second stage will separate from each other. Just after 6 seconds later, second stage MVAC engine will ignite for the first time during today's flight, that is SES-1 at t plus 2 minutes and 36 seconds. Coming up next at t plus 2 minutes and 57 seconds mark, Falcon 9's payload fairing will be jettisoned, exposing the payload to the vacuum of space. At t plus 6 minutes and 5 seconds, the first stage entry burn will begin, lasting for 23 seconds. Up to 6 minutes and 28 seconds mark, ending the entry burn for the Falcon 9's first stage. At this time around, we will hear the callouts for stage 1 FTS, that is flight termination systems, being saved. Shortly after that, we will also hear the callouts for stage 1 being transonic and stage 2 being in terminal guidance. Just for a quick knowledge, the stage 1 FTS is saved, or one can say the flight termination systems are turned off or disabled after the re-entry burn, whereas the stage 2 FTS is saved after the orbital insertion burn. Next major milestone at t plus 7 minutes and 46 seconds, the first stage landing burn will commence, which will orient and set up the first stage for SpaceX iconic precision landing. Just a couple of seconds prior to the first stage landing, the landing legs will be deployed. At t plus 8 minutes and 14 seconds, the first stage will land on the drone ship. Just read the instructions for 87th time overall, marking SpaceX 330th overall booster landing to date. The second stage MVAC engine will shut down, that is SECO-1, for the first time in today's flight and enter into a parking orbit at t plus 8 minutes and 39 seconds. T plus 54 minutes and 40 seconds, the second stage MVAC engine will reignite for a real quick 2 seconds burn, that is SES-2, and turning it off at t plus 54 minutes and 42 seconds, that is SECO-2, which will set up the batch of 23 Starlink satellites deployment at approximately t plus 1 hour, 3 minutes and 34 seconds. Before moving on, It's our pleasure, Pop Tripika, that we could provide you good viewing experience. Yes, upon you said this previously also, and really I didn't notice about that, but upon you being saying this, I did notice that it's true, and it's not that I questioned you, just I didn't knew about this before, that the shortfall of gravitas is also providing the landing audio. I used to think that it's from SpaceX, that they are not feeding the audio while landing, but as you said, it got to be in my knowledge. Oh, thanks for your like, and really we are grateful for your support, Paprika. And we wish that no matter how big our channel will grow, we can still be in touch as now as we are. And for the very reason I did made you as a moderator, that no matter what, I should entertain you in a different way from rest of the others. And as you asked that what terminal guidance means, as far as I know, that the terminal guidance for any vehicle, to be precise a rocket, refers to a phase where rocket's flight where it precisely navigates to its intended destination, such as a specific orbit while it is ascending, or a landing site when it's landing, or you can say when it's making its re-entry. During this critical stage, the onboard guidance system adjusts the rocket's trajectory to ensure accurate placement of the payload or for a successful landing. Now, as far as SpaceX Falcon 9 is concerned, it employs an advanced avionics and control software to achieve this precise guidance and enhancing its reliability, you can say. So this much only I can say about this, because I knew this much, and hopefully that will clarify your doubt. Although right now, as I said, even things are not coming to my mind, so sorry for that. And it's all our pleasure to take care of you, Paprika. Is nothing you have to say thanks. You are there with us always, so we should be like paying respect to you. For that I did so. Now coming to some stats related to today's mission launch. As of now, we are just 20 minutes away from the webcast to begin. So let's quickly wrap up our discussion. Today's launch marks 365th SpaceX overall launch and the 50th dedicated launch of Starlink satellites for this year. This will be the 353rd Falcon 9 launch to date. 17th flight of this particular Falcon 9 booster supporting today's mission with tail number 1069. Today's launch marks 70th Falcon 9 launch of 2024 so far and is SpaceX 73rd overall launch of this year, including the third and fourth integrated flight test of Starship and one Falcon Heavy launch. This is SpaceX 299th Falcon booster reflight to date. That is the launch of a booster that has flown at least once before. 86th orbital launch for SpaceX, launching from this pad, Launch Complex 39A, and this will be the 180th overall orbital launch from pad 39A. With this mission's success, SpaceX will have a remarkable 6,761 Starlink satellites launched to date. Moving on to some reusability statistics. And would like to mention also that these stats of reusability are overall reusability stats. This launch marks 285th Falcon 9 booster reflight to date. This will be the 87th landing on Just Read the Instructions drone ship to date. 17th landing of the first stage booster with tail number 1069. With this mission's first stage landing, which sets the stage to the 259th overall drone ship landing, marking 311th Falcon 9 landing so far and 330th SpaceX overall landing to date. Speaking of drone ship landings, let's take a look into the stats for drone ship landings prior to today's mission. It is worth mentioning among the drone ships, a shortfall of Gravitas has a flawless record with 0 unsuccessful landing attempts and 76 successful landings with the previous Starlink 8-9 mission. In comparison, Just Read the Instructions has encountered 3 unsuccessful landings with 86 successful landings previously with Turksat 6A mission, while of course I Still Love You has experienced 7 unsuccessful landings and 96 successful landings with recent Starlink 9-3 mission. This positions a shortfall of Gravitas as a leader in flawless and successful drone ship landings. Kindly note that only these drone ship landing stats which I mentioned here right now are excluding today's mission. These stats are prior to today's mission. Let's have a look into some key stats for SpaceX launches in this year, that is 2024, including today's mission. So SpaceX has a total of 73 launches, and out of those 21 were non-Starlink missions. for commercial and government organizations, and 2 Starship launches. The recent non-Starlink mission supported by Falcon 9 was the Turksat 6A NROL-186 mission, and previously the GOES-U mission supported by the 10th launch of Falcon Heavy. SpaceX reused booster for 68 times in those mission launches, and including today's one, showing their commitment to sustainability and reusability. Now, if we look into the geographical distribution, we get they have 48 launches from the East Coast, with 14 from Launch Complex 39A, that is Kennedy Space Center, including today's one, and 34 launches from Space Launch Complex 40, that is from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. On the West Coast, they have 23 launches, all from Space Launch Complex 4 East, that is Vandenberg Space Force Base. And there was 2 launches from the Gulf Coast of Starbase back in Texas for the Starship 3rd and 4th integrated flight test, now awaiting the next 5th integrated flight test. As for landings, they have nailed it 71 times. Most of them were on drone ships, with 56 successful landings, 19 on Of Course I Still Love You, 16 on Just Read the Instructions including one from today, and 21 on A Shortfall of Gravitas. And for ground landings, they have pulled off 15 of them, 9 times on landing zone 1, 2 times on landing zone 2, and 4 times on landing zone 4 respectively. Prior to today's launch, the success rate for landings is 98.61%. For drone ship landings, it is 96.27%, and the overall landing success rate is 96.76%. The longest stretch of successful mission in a row prior to the last mission failure, that is the Starlink 9-3 mission, is 334 back-to-back successful missions, that is from Iridium 1 to Turksat 6A. Most launches in a calendar quarter to date is 36 launches in the second quarter of this year, that is 2024. And the most launches in a calendar month is 13 launches, that is also in May of this year 2024. Moving on to this year's orbital launches, including today's one, the United States is dominating with 84 launches, comprising a substantial 63.6% of global total. China follows closely behind, accounting for 24.2% with 32 launches, with recent launch of Long March 4B on Gaofen 1105 mission. It is worth mentioning July 9th to July 11th were really bad days, or you can say ill-fated days, for rocket launches this year, as because on July 9th, Ariane 6 suffered a partial failure, although this was taken into consideration before, as it was the maiden flight of Ariane 6. Next, on July 11th, China's iSpace Hyperbola 1 experienced a 4-stage failure. preventing it from reaching orbit. And finally, the Starlink 9-3 mission failure, which led to the Falcon 9 being grounded for 15 days on July 11th. For me, would really never like to see such days once again. Now Russia maintains a steady pace with 8 launches, with previous Soyuz 2.1A launch of ISS Progress 88, also known as Progress MS-27. ISS cargo resupply mission on May 30th from Baikonur Cosmodrome, making 6.1% of the pie. On the other hand, Japan has 4 launches so far, making 3% of the pie, with the recent H3-22S launch vehicle on its second launch for this year on Advanced Land Observing Satellite 4 mission, that is ALOS 4 mission, on 1st July. Meanwhile, both India and Iran made their participation, with 2 launches each contributing to 1.5% of the global total. This year's first successful orbital launch was made by India. As you can see, this is quite a close competition, but the United States and China are undeniably dominating the space race this year. So now we move on and have a look at the pie chart showing 2024 orbital launches by rocket variations, including today's launch. Let me break it down for you. The green slice of the pie, that's the Falcon 9 rocket, the superstar of this year and the real heavy hitter, currently undergoing an investigation led by FAA, having the biggest share of the pie with 70 launches, including one from today, making up more than half of the whole pie at 52.2% and leading. Next up, we got the Rocket Lab's Electron with 8 launches, making 6% of the pie. With the recent 50th Electron launch on No Time to Lose mission, Rocket Lab has reached its 50th launch faster than any other commercially developed rocket in history, now holding the title previously owned by SpaceX Falcon 9. We were supposed to have a sky full of SARs, that is synthetic aperture radios, mission launch earlier on July 21st, but it has now been postponed. The next launch for Electron will be Owl for One, One for Owl mission on July 30th. This mission is also for SAR, that is synthetic aperture radios. Also on the same day, we will have ULA's 100th launch for national security on USSF-51 mission using Atlas 5551 configuration. And this will be the last national security mission being supported by Atlas V. Also, we have Roscosmos 2.1A and 2.1B rockets with 7 launches so far this year, which is 5.2% of the pie. Then we got China's CZ-2C and CZ-2D rockets. The CZ-2D, 2C, that is Long March 2C, has 4 launches making 3% of the pie, and the CZ-2D, that is the Long March 2D, has 5 launches with 3.7% of the pie. Lastly, we got this pink slice, another bigger slice of the pie labeled Others, which is a mix of different rocket launches, including Ariane 6, Falcon Heavy, Atlas 5, Delta 4 Heavy, Starship, Vulcan Centaur, ISRO's GSLV Mark II and PSLV DL, Japan's H3 and H2A, Iran's KM100 and Simorgh, Russia's Angara A5, China's Gravity 1, and others. These names are not exhaustive, and they got 40 launches in total, which is 29.9% of the pie. Now let's quickly discuss the Starlink 9-3 mission failure and what we know so far about it, although we might be mistaken in some aspects due to lack of absolute knowledge of everything. Please consider our insights and let us know any accurate information you have. We use the term discuss to reflect this openness. On July 11, 2024, SpaceX launched a Falcon 9 rocket with 20 Starlink satellites from Space Launch Complex 4 East at Vandenberg Space Force Base on its Starlink 9-3 mission, where SpaceX suffered its first in-flight failure of a Falcon 9 rocket since 2015, leaving 20 Starlink satellites in a perilously low orbit. SpaceX founder Elon Musk said it was unclear if the satellites could be saved using the onboard ion thrusters. SpaceX is leading a mishap investigation with the involvement from the FAA after its Falcon 9 suffered a liquid oxygen leak, leading to the loss of 20 Starlink satellites. Although the first stage performed as expected, carrying the second stage and the Starlink satellite into orbit, followed by the successful stage separation and droneship landing, marking SpaceX 329th recovery of an orbital class rocket to date. SpaceX statement regarding the incident as follows: during the flight burn of the Falcon 9's second stage engine, a liquid oxygen leak developed within the insulation around the upper stage engine. The cause of the leak was identified as a crack in a sense line for a pressure sensor attached to the vehicle's oxygen system. This line cracked due to a fatigue caused by high loading from engine vibration and looseness in the clamps that normally constrains the line. The Starlink team made contact with the 10 of the Starlink satellites and issued early burn commands, but the satellite remained in high drag environment at only 135 kilometers above Earth. At that level of drag, the available thrust is unlikely to be sufficient to raise satellite's orbit. Consequently, the satellites fully disintegrated upon re-entry, and to date no debris has been reported after the successful deorbit of Starlink satellites. The leak is related, and from now it's my understanding which I am seeing, the leak is related to a sensor line where excess LOX caused excessive chilling in the TEA, that is triethyl aluminum, or TEB, that is triethyl boron ignition system, leading to a hard start. With my little knowledge, I suspect that the low temperatures resulted in a slow injection of more viscous fluid, causing a buildup of LOX fuel before ignition, which led to the hard start. Now, I guess it's time for the webcast to begin. So let's move on ahead. Don't know, for some reason we are not able to hear any audio from the SpaceX feed, although the volume is high enough. Maybe today they are not playing any music before the launch. This incident one time happened before, and that time they mistakenly got gone live and later on again rescheduled. Just for a second, please allow me that whether the launch is on time to check. Yes, actually that's the case which I was mentioning. Now they have again adjusted their liftoff time. Right now SpaceX is targeting for a liftoff time of 1:45 a.m. Eastern Time, corresponding to 5:45 p.m. UTC, both on Saturday, that is on July 27th, which corresponds to 10:45 p.m. Pacific Time on July 26th. So there is no point staying here, as because this live is not going to be happening. right now. Actually, this live won't be going to be happening right now, although the liftoff is for today only. But let's keep an eye on this. Hello, Fairmate, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in, and hopefully, you are doing well. It's a long time from last we met. So, right now, as you came, but still, there is some time to lift off. As Pop Tripika mentioned, there is yet another 40, near about 40 minutes of delay, and actually, now it got frozen. The stream, as I said, that this is not going to be happening right now. They mistakenly have gone live. So as we were discussing that about the Starlink 9-3 mission failure, previously I mentioned about my understanding of the failure, that the leak is related to the sensor line, where the excess locks caused excessive chilling in the TEA, triethyl aluminum, or TEB, triethyl boron ignition system, leading to a hard start. Now it is unclear to me specifically that which out of this SpaceX is using on their Falcon 9 rocket, either the TEA or TEB for the ignition system. But to make things more clearer, that what TEA and TEB does for the ignition system, let me just give a background of it. So the method of igniting a rocket engine is mainly depending on the fuel or the oxidizer combination. Some combinations such as liquid hydrogen or liquid oxygen, that is hydrolox, ignite very easily and are sparked using a high performance spark plug, which you can see in case of RL10 used on the center upper stage. However, the RP1, that is the rocket grade kerosene or the liquid oxygen mixture, it is more challenging to ignite and requires additional energy. We also need to avoid having fuel to accumulate in the combustion chamber and then ignite all at once, as this could be too harsh for the engine. So for that, instead we inject the TEA, that is the triethyl aluminum, or TEB, that is triethyl boron, with the oxidizer to initiate combustion, and only then is the fuel is introduced. Now the rockets from the Falcon 9 family have been launched 364 times over 14 years, resulting in 361 full successes. giving a success rate of 99.16% to date, where we witnessed two in-flight failures. Firstly, for SpaceX CRS-7, that is the commercial resupply to the ISS, where the Falcon 9 disintegrated 139 seconds into the flight after launch from Cape Canaveral. And secondly, the recent Starlink Group 9-3 mission failure. And one partial failure we witnessed during the SpaceX CRS-1, that is again the commercial resupply mission to the ISS, which delivered its cargo to the International Space Station. So the previous Falcon 9 launch failure occurred at June 28, 2015. Starlink 9-3 mission is the first failure in more than 7 years. We did witness on the social media about the preliminary visibility of the re-entry corresponding to the failed Starlink 9-3 mission over the skies of the southern Chile and Argentina. But personally, I can't say about the authenticity of the video clips. The last remaining one of the 20 Starlink satellites surviving from the Starlink 9-3 mission was successfully disintegrated on July 21st. Yes, Pop Tripica is always being good to see familiar faces. And no matter what, Fairmaid, you, Vlad, Confession at 3 a.m., you always are being present here. Although I do miss Vlad for some days, he is not coming. I don't know what's the issue. Hopefully, he is doing well. Although he is there liking the post on the X, but I guess he is busy with his exams or something, so for that he is not showing up here. And Fairmaid, yes, at least I am good, and hopefully Pop Tripica is also doing good. And also we hope that you are doing well as well. And to be, as we are still having some time from the liftoff, would like to beg your pardon, guys, all of you who are here on live with us. I would like to end the stream here only, as because I said earlier, my grandfather just passed away some minutes ago. So please don't mind me for today. Hopefully you can understand, and please bear with me. and would promise that I will never let you down as of today. So as of now, I will be wrapping up the stream. Thanks everyone for joining us live. We hope you all will enjoy the weekend ahead. Thanks for watching and being with us. This is AstroYonder Live and me, Dipta, signing off for now, and we will see you next time. Fair made is alright. It's alright. Anyways, but I beg your pardon from you and Pop Tripika that I couldn't make it to the launch because I have to leave now. So for that, I'm sorry. Please, you guys take care, and hopefully we'll see you in the next upcoming live stream. And for sure, I will do my level best to come live on the immediate next live stream. This is AstroYonder Live and me, Dipto, signing off for now, and we will see you next time.